man, this whole thing, like just moving over to here and YouTube and everything, like, man, like people that are watching this right now, right, or listening to this, it's like you're going through and you're living your life and you're just kind of doing your thing. And, you could be that one decision away from, changing, the trajectory of everything it is that you're doing, like literally.
Welcome to the Video Entrepreneur Podcast powered by Uscreen.tv. This is your host, Rob Balasabas, Head of Partnerships here at Uscreen. In this podcast, we talk about what it takes to build a successful online business, and every week we'll take you behind the scenes with top video creators, experts, and entrepreneurs to discuss the world of online video and what it really takes to build a thriving video business. In this episode, Nimmin joined me to talk about growing an online audience with video, as well as how to monetize your videos. And also, we'll learn how he grew his channel to over 100,000 subscribers in under 1 year, as well as how he's leveraged video to build a successful business. Fast forward, and today Nimmin has used his influence to share knowledge with others, as well as grow to over 800,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. And so without further ado, let's talk to Nick. Nick, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Doing awesome, Rob. Super happy to be here today. Super happy to be having the conversation with you as always, my man. I hope that you're also doing fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm excited to be co-hosting this podcast and excited to have you here. It's a nice way to catch up. And so I don't think our Uscreen audience needs an introduction to who you are, but just in case somebody new that maybe is just starting on YouTube, doesn't know who Nick Nimmin is, why don't you say hello and introduce yourself and a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are now on YouTube?
Sure. So I'm Nick. Basically, I teach people about YouTube. Essentially, I try to teach content creators all of the fundamental things that they need to know as they are coming onto the platform so that they can give themselves the best possible chance of succeeding on the platform. It's kind of like the long version of what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. But basically, I have a whole YouTube channel filled with, YouTube help-related content, basically sharing the tools, information, and resources that help content creators thrive on YouTube. In terms of my story, basically, I came onto YouTube as a solution to a problem, which a lot of people, do. And that problem was, hey, I was doing something that I didn't enjoy and I wanted to do something that I enjoyed. So I gave YouTube a shot, and as I was giving it a shot, things started kind of panning out in terms of slowly starting to get a response, and then I had an opportunity to work with somebody that actually knew what they were doing, and I took a break from my current channel, and I went and worked on that channel for a while, and I ended up burning out during that point of time, and I'm sure a lot of content creators can also relate to that. And what I mean by that is I was essentially waking up and I was working on something YouTube related through most of the day. And then after that was finished, then I would work on the work stuff that I had to do. And that left, little time for, social life and things like that. So I ended up just completely frying myself out. So then eventually I had to come to a decision on, okay, I am, hooked on this YouTube thing because through working on that other channel, I got really good insights into the community aspect of it and just how cool it was just getting that, immediate feedback. Like you publish a video and then, right away, you get a couple of comments in there and you're like, hey, I got some people watching this, interacting with it. And I, caught the bug, so to speak, in terms of YouTube. And I knew that I wanted to continue doing YouTube, but I didn't, I just knew that I couldn't keep up the pace that I currently was. So because of that, I came back to my original channel just because I didn't have to do all the research and things like that involved with the content that I had with the other one. And then I started just making content about, helping people come up with names for their projects and helping people stay focused when they're working in a coffee shop and those sorts of things. And then eventually I made a video about how to, get your videos to show up in search. And that's what really started leading me more into the YouTube help space is when I made that video. That's the first time that I started having a lot of comments of people saying, hey, could you make another video like this? Could you teach us more about YouTube? And then I just started sharing what I knew. And then, from that point in time, as I was sharing, what I knew and the things that I was using to, get my attention on YouTube, I started having people reach out to me asking me if I did consulting. And at that point in time, I didn't. So, I turned down a bunch of people. And then finally I had somebody that was like, hey, I know you haven't done this before, but, I would be willing to be your first, person and, just kind of, go through that with you. And I was like, sure. Okay, let's do it. And then, I started doing that. And then I started, helping people. And I started realizing like, in addition to what it is that I'm doing on my channel, I can also help other people get, direct results as well. Whoa. Hey, relax. Sorry about that. But
it's okay.
But I was like, I noticed that, like I can help, other people start getting results as well. So I started going like serious consulting for a while. And the really cool thing about that is, when you have one YouTube channel or two YouTube channels or three YouTube channels, the view that you have in terms of what works and doesn't work and things like that, it's relatively narrow because I'm going to put him outside, Rob, if you don't mind.
No worries.
Yeah. Second. And as you can see, I'm a professional and I prepare, as much as I can before these things by, turning off phones, putting the dog outside of the room, things like that. But anyway, so I realized I was like, okay, so instead of my YouTube channel or the ones that I had at that point in time, I was like, I had this kind of narrow view. And then I got this opportunity to start working with, different creators and different niches and things like that. And it started giving me access to a lot more data and just a lot more information. And it really changed my view on YouTube and what works and doesn't work and all that good stuff. And so as that whole thing progressed, I started sharing the things that that I was running into there, the little tips and tricks and things like that we would do to help people get better results on their channels. And then after that, I stopped consulting for a while. And basically just focused on, just adding value to the people that were watching the content itself. Fortunately, people that I've worked with in the past, I still have access to their channels. Fortunately, I also help people from time to time that reach out on Twitter and things like that. And when I do that, part of the agreement is like, hey, I'll help you out. It's not going to cost you anything, but I need, access to your channel so that I can go in and just kind of cross-reference things between channels and things like that. So fortunately, due to the type of content that I make and that particular journey, it's also given me access to, a lot of information, excuse me, in terms of YouTube and just a lot of insights into, how things work, which is awesome because not only can I help other people and I can use that stuff, as ammo for what it is that I do well, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, what an interesting journey, man. From like where like just the whole thing, and now kind of where you're at. You're at at the time of this recording, you're at like I think 820 something thousand subscribers, which is incredible. And you've always been so generous. Like that's one thing. Like learning from you even before we got connected and started becoming friends. Like I've always learned so much from you, and you're so generous with your knowledge. I know you do a ton of interviews, and you talk a lot about YouTube, of course, and YouTube growth and stuff. So before we dive into that, I'm just going to throw a random question at you, just to get you to know you a little bit better. So I actually don't even know. Like, did you guys grow up you guys grew up in Cincinnati? Is that right?
Yes.
In the States? Yeah, yeah. What was your first job back then? What was your first job?
Walgreens. Yeah, so Walgreens. Yeah,
oh, nice.
Yeah. So when I was 15, I don't even know if you can work legally at 15 nowadays, but but at 16, that time,
but okay.
Yeah, when I was 15, I got a job at Walgreens, and
nice.
So that was my first taste of the employed life. And then after that, I ended up working at Kentucky Fried Chicken for a little bit, and I think it was maybe a month or two. And then from there, where did I go from there? I think I went to Little Caesars Pizza for a little bit in terms of. Just kind of, making pizzas or whatever. And then I ended up quitting that. And then I ended up getting the job back as a delivery driver later. And then I ended up getting the job back after I'd quit that time later as a manager for it. And I did that for a little bit. And then after that, I ended up trying my hand at just entrepreneurship in general and started, trying all kinds of different stuff. Like I've tried so many different types of businesses that it's crazy in terms of just different things to do. Everything from cleaning commercial buildings to selling in-room guest directories for hotels to having a door-to-door marketing company, graphic design service, like all kinds of different stuff that I've done in terms of my personal, my personal journey. So, but it's cool because some of that stuff, like all the sales, experience that I've had to do because of all that stuff, that's stuff that I can use when it comes to my YouTube channel, the graphic design, give me a little bit of an edge, so to speak, when it comes to all this stuff.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Like, and then I guess at some point, you decided to move from the United States to Thailand now, where you live, and you've been living there for like what? Like how long? I guess you've been living? Like
I think we're rolling up on
plus?
15 years now. Yeah, 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so basically when I started my YouTube channel, we had already been here, I think, for 7 years. So it's been a little bit of 7 years. So yeah, 14 years, October, I think we'll start the 15th year. So yeah, it's been man, this whole thing, like just moving over to here and YouTube and everything, like, man, like, it's crazy, Rob, like just how, like you're living your life, like, people that are watching this right now, right, are listening to this, it's like you're going through and you're living your life and you're just kind of doing your thing. And, you could be that one decision away from, changing, the trajectory of everything it is that you're doing. Like literally from before I moved over to here to like let's say a month before I moved over here, even knowing that I was moving over here, like I had no idea, what I was in for in terms of, just the lifestyle change in terms of, the job, related stuff that I would be doing in terms of my design stuff and all of that. No idea that it would eventually lead to me, working online in the capacity that I do now and being able to serve, as many people at scale as I'm fortunate to do. So yeah, it's been a really, really awesome experience so far.
So far. Yeah, I didn't even realize. So you actually started your YouTube channel when you were already there in Thailand.
Yeah.
You didn't start it here in the States and then kind of decided, I want to do the nomad thing so you started there. So what brought you to Thailand? Like of all the places, what brought you to Thailand? Were you there? Did you visit? Did you travel there before?
So my brother was already staying over here a majority of his time. So basically, I got out of a relationship, and I'm saying got out of, but basically it was a breakup. But basically, through that, at that point in time, we'd been together for, I think it was like 6 years. And, when something like that ends, you have all this stuff going on in your brain. And I was having a little bit of trouble with it, just to be transparent. And my brother at that time, he was like, hey, all expense paid trip to Thailand if you want to come and just kind of, reset your mind, just kind of give you some new experiences and just kind of get your brain out of being, everywhere you go, you have memories and, all that good stuff. And I was like, sweet, I'm in. And then I came over here and I spent 30 days over here and I just fell in love with the place. And at that point in time, I didn't have any experience working online or anything like that, but my brother did because he was editing videos for people and doing graphic related things for people and all of that online already. He was way ahead of the curve on that stuff. So he told me he would mentor me on all of that and help me learn how to get clients online. And at that point in time, I was like, yeah, that's what I'll do. So I went back and I should have sold it, but I ended up giving my my cleaning service to the partner that I was working with at that time, and that we built it. And I just gave it to him, and I was like, hey, dude, I'm out of here. And then I just ended up coming over to here. It took about a year because through his, mentorship, I had to go through the process of getting enough clients in order to make sure that what I was doing was sustainable, right? So that I would have enough income coming in to support me over here. And in addition to that, right before I moved here, I actually went from Cincinnati over to California, and I stayed in California. I think it was around like 6 months, maybe 8 months. I can't really remember, but for that period of time, that was just kind of like a springboard, just to make sure that I would be cool being away from extended family and friends and things like that. So it was kind of like the opportunity to where it was like, all right, if I want to turn around and not see this thing all the way through, then I would have that opportunity. Is kind of what that was, kind of like a safety net of sorts.
Yeah, just testing it out. Test the waters, right? Test the waters. Just like a little test. No, that's cool, man. I didn't even realize that. I mean, we've known each other for a little while. I didn't even realize that was the case. I thought you created a channel and then you moved over there, once things started to kind of get rolling. So that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Of course, D would be there. Like, let's go, so that's amazing. Right. Cool. Well, I mean, most of the time, I'm sure you're talking about YouTube growth and stuff, but like really, what I'd like to really understand from you is, you've grown this channel that you have, your main channel, because you have multiple channels, to over 800,000 subs. And so would really love to start understanding, for our audience, how to grow their online audience, using videos, which is mainly what you've done. And so, with that, you shared a little bit of the evolution of your content, right? You didn't start off as like the YouTube, expert growth kind of niche.
I couldn't. Like, how could I? Right? I came on YouTube. I had to learn just like everybody else did. Like, you can't. That's right. Like, when I see channels that start that way, I think to myself, like, that's like a little bit, it's kind of interesting. But, like when that happens, it'll usually be from somebody like the ones that succeed seem to be people that are bringing like their marketing knowledge into YouTube. So basically what will happen is they'll have, because the concepts, like they cross over. So, if they have like their marketing knowledge or they've built other, online businesses and things like that, then when those people come over, they're looking at YouTube through the right lens in terms of, tracking the right things and really analyzing the data that they're seeing and things like that. So they're able to make the right choices, which in turn, that's the right thing to do, right? Analyze your data and make the decisions around it. So they do that sort of thing, and then those are the ones that typically, will rise up, through the noise, so to speak. And then the ones that come on and they start, the YouTube help channels just because they think that, like, oh, hey, there's a lot of people want to be YouTubers. That this is going to be like an easy way to do a YouTube channel. It'll typically be those people that won't make it very far, just because in order to get your, like we even though we make that type of content, we still play by the same rules in terms of, people have to respond to our content in a competitive way for the platform. And if they don't, then, then our videos aren't going to be surfaced very often. So.
Yeah. And if you really think about it, like that's such a difficult space to, get found in. Like you're literally trying to rank the guys that are teaching you how to rank, right. Especially with this. So with a smaller channel, it's really hard. We have seen some people that have done it really well right from the jump. But so for you started because you were doing some productivity content, like you were teaching people how to vlog a little bit and things like that.
Yeah, like how to come up with the video ideas, things like that. Basically things that were within my reality at that point in time.
Right.
So basically like some of the productivity content, right? Because like I mentioned before, like I was doing the design service remotely, like here, like we did that, like through the internet. So, because of that, I was just sharing like my experiences that I was having and how I would overcome problems. Like, for example, I made a video about how to stay focused when you're working at a coffee shop. It didn't get many views. However, that was a video that I made because, like here, you have your group of friends that you hang out with and you go and you work at a coffee shop. Sometimes you take your laptop and you go hang out and you work at a coffee shop, just like everybody does now. And, and basically, I'd be hanging out at the coffee shop and I would be sitting there, doing whatever. And then, one friend would show up and he'd come over and start talking for a while. And then another friend would show up. The next thing you know, you can't get anything done. So because of that, you got to go in there, wear headphones and just kind of nod and, like that whole thing. So, I started making videos about, those sorts of things as well, but it was all just what was within my reality at that point of time.
Yeah. I feel like that's where I'm at. Like I just, I've been going to like WeWorks a couple times a month, and I feel like that's where I'm at. Like, hey, this is the kind of I think what you said there, like that was your reality at the time. It's not like you could speak to how to grow to 500,000 subs because you haven't done it yet, right? So, I respect that approach rather than trying to like fake it.
Yeah. And with that too, like, because, that content is important. So in that situation, when I would make those types of videos, I wouldn't make the video in terms of like, hey, I'm going to, I'm telling you how to do it. Like I would pull in people that have actually had those results. Yeah. So, like I had Brandon Nankovell on, he had 50,000 subscribers at the time. So we talked about how to get 50,000 subscribers. I had Stephen Van on, and he had 50,000 subscribers at the time, same exact thing. So we talked about how to get 50,000 subscribers. At some point in time, I had somebody on, I'm sure, that had 100,000 and then 500,000, so then we would, have those conversations as well. So, the things that I wasn't able to talk about, then I would reach out and try to, bring people in that, that did have the experience where they could share the experience that they went through to get the results that they have.
I like that. Yeah, that's really smart. That's a smart approach. That's where collaborations come in. I'm curious then. So like, I mean, you've been through the whole journey, like right now, 800,000. I'm sure now you're like thinking of 1 million. Has your strategy changed through certain milestones? Like, was your strategy at like the 10,000 sub mark different than like, obviously like 200,000 sub mark, like in terms of content and promotion and format, things like that?
Some things have changed just because the platform has evolved. So, for example, when I first started, everybody had like the flashy logo intros and things like that, and they had these big long, graphics, at the end of the video, like basically an end screen would pop up, and you'd have these graphics, and it'd just be basically just dead time there at the end of the video where somebody could make the decision on what they wanted to watch next. And now, everybody's attention span is just, what's next? What can I click on next? What can I be distracted by? Right. So now, like the no logo intros, just because, they typically cause a negative impact in the audience retention. When it comes to the end of the video, there's no language whatsoever letting anybody even have the closest hint. If they're not looking at the timeline of the video, then they have no idea the video is getting ready to come to an end. And then I'll just drop the end of the video on them and try to get them to watch another video, for example. But those types of things are definitely something that you have to do now versus, what we did before. In addition to that, I spent a lot of last year actually focused mostly on the YouTube help content. And just to be honest, it's just because it's easier content to make. And, with the coronavirus going on and all that stuff going on, I was just trying to, make sure that I just consistently got content out. But, just being transparent with you here, and I don't think I've said this publicly, but being transparent here, I just kind of turned it more of into a production line to where it's like, okay, what value can I add to where it's going to help people, but it's not going to take me a ton of time to do it so that I can get the video, done and then, send it off to get edited or whatever. And I think that during that particular process, I was focusing on ease versus focusing on, what's effective. And view counts, all that stuff still came in. But, like we had talked about before the stream, it has had a negative impact in my actual monthly subscriber count. But it's okay because everything else on the channel, all my, the goals and everything that I have for the channel, all of those are still, firing on all cylinders. But my monthly subscriber count is down. And the bad thing about that is you just talked about, being close to 1 million. In order to get to 1 million, you got to get that sub count up, right? So it's like everything else is going all right. So, my sub count is something that I'm going to have to focus on. So on my channel, and I talked to Rob about this, before we got on the call, but on my channel, a lot of people think that it's the YouTube help content that grows my channel. But in reality, it's actually the tool videos that grow my channel in terms of the subscriber gain. So in terms of my strategy, I have to start mixing in. Basically, I have to add an additional upload per week. And then I have to start mixing in the YouTube help content so that I can still serve the people that are coming on with some tool related content so that I can make sure that I'm bringing back people that have, interacted with the channel, but they're not really interested in the new content, the new creator focused content. So then that keeps more of them coming back. And then that's also the stuff that as people interact with that content, they typically subscribe at a higher rate for my channel. So in terms of me moving forward, it basically comes down to adding a video, an extra video per week, and then basically mixing up the tools with the YouTube tips. But then within that, I also have some experimentation that I want to do this year as well with some content that is not typical for my type of channel. And I'm like, I'll just drop that one in terms of, I'll just publish it on the channel when it's time. But basically, I want to try to inject something into the YouTube help space that people just aren't doing right now, because there's some really good people that have come into the space. Like, for example, I'm not sure, Rob, if you have had the chance to talk with Ed over at Film Booth.
Business Film Booth, yeah, of course.
So basically he's leveled up the the help space, and the difference in how he does things is, like me, how I mentioned taking the lazy approach. Literally, I'll sit down right here and I'll look at the camera, and then I'll crank out, a video or 2 videos or 3 videos, and then be done, pass them on, and like that's it. So the entire process for me, I can crank out, 2 or 3 videos over the course of like an hour, hour and a half, and then get them, up and ready to go. And then like with his type of content, though, it's way more effective because he is introducing storytelling into what it is that he's doing. And he's actually building full stories into the content. So he's showing people and taking them on this journey in additional to sharing the information with them. So he's like really leveled things up. So because of that, it was inspiring for me because I was like, wow, this is really cool. He introduced, this type of thing to our space. So it started getting my wheels turning in terms of like, okay, what could I do that's just a little bit different for our space also to just start, trying to add something else. Because Rob, as you know, when it comes to all this stuff, you have to constantly experiment with what it is that you're doing. And part of that is, stepping outside of your comfort zone a little bit, which is what some of that content that I have coming is for, for my type of content.
Yeah. No, when I said earlier, like there are some guys that have like broken into the space, like right from the jump, like really well. Like Ed was one of the guys that I was thinking about because like,
Nate from Channel Makers. He's
Nate
also
Channel
great.
Makers. Yeah.
So like with Nate, just to go ahead and highlight these guys because they deserve it. Like with Nate, one thing that I really like with Nate is one, how analytical he is, but in addition to that, he involves the community with everything that he does. So like he has forms that he posts in his community feed where he has people submit images and screenshots and like, put their, data from their channels in there and all this cool stuff. So basically he starts collecting data from the community at scale, so that it becomes like an interactive thing between him and the community. Really, really smart move on that. But it was just something, fresh, as well. So, when he came in and when Ed came in, I was like, oh yeah, this is great. Now we're getting some spice into our scene, so to speak. So this is it's inspiring, because like with everything that you do. If you even when you enjoy it, because I love making content, but with everything that you do, when you do the same thing, day in, day out, you do kind of hit that stride to where you do kind of fall into that comfort zone. Like I was saying, I can sit down here and crank out, a handful of videos, get them up and be done. So you just kind of fall into that comfort zone of defaulting into, like, hey, this is the path of least resistance, so to speak. Let's just do that. So, watching those guys come in and do what it is that they do is really inspiring, because it, creates that, spark of like, hey, now I get to, try to, now I get to try to experiment as well. So
experiment as well. Well, I'm really curious then, like, let's just say your channel, your main channel is like autopilot, like, it's all good. It's like running, it's already over 1 million subs. Your business is going. What's a channel that you would like to just like do, even if nobody's watching? Like for me, I would just love to have like a craft coffee channel, like where I just make fancy coffee and like, all the B-roll. Like, I think that would just be fun. And like, I don't even care if anybody watches. Like for you, what is that? What kind of channel would that be?
Yeah, it'd be a music channel. Yeah. So basically it would be a music channel of me just basically just making music. So like that would be it. Like the whole thing would just be me making music and then sharing tips about, how I made things sound a certain way or something like that, because, you still got to add value. So, so it'd be, sharing, that kind of stuff, but it would basically just me, being over there making like instrumentals and stuff. Like having a good
beats
time.
And stuff.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. No, that's really good to know. Cool. Yeah, no, that's really great. I want to talk about live streaming, because live streaming is a big part of your business. You guys you guys do a weekly live stream. I don't know how long have you guys been doing that on Saturdays now?
Man, so
on and off for like
came on board with those when I had crossed shortly after I crossed 100,000 subscribers. But I was live streaming. Let's see here. So I think I've been live streaming almost every Saturday since, or at least every week since I've had around probably 12 to 15,000 subscribers on the channel. Wow. Like I love live streaming, and I think that live streaming for me personally has been a really big part of my brand and also just the business in general, because like when you make videos and you put out videos, that's one thing, and people do get to know you through the nuances of your personality and all of that, but they get to know the polished version. When you're live streaming, you have that show and you consistently show up, week in, week out for, years, then what happens is, the people that do hang out in the live streams, they get to know, how you think about things. They get to know all the nuances of your personality. They get to know, like things that are going on in the world. They get to hear your, personal opinions about those. And from the branding side of things, those are the types of things that really connect people to other people. So because of that, I think that the live stream itself has been like a really big part of everything it is that I do, in terms of, the brand behind the channel. And in addition to that, when my brother came on, it took our streams to like a whole other level, because, before it was just me and I was, just helping people with their channels. But when my brother came on, it became more entertaining at that point in time, because then instead of it just being, to where I share information kind of like I do now because he's in Mexico. But when he came on, then, it added a layer of entertainment to it. So then we had entertainment along with the, tips that we were sharing with people and looking at channels and stuff like that. So I think that whole thing, that whole moment in time, so to speak, really did a great thing for the brand, just by, by having people coming into the streams, getting their channels looked at, seeing that value, telling other people about it. And then, of course, it also helped me on the side of my expertise as well in my business, because, people would come into my live stream and, on any subject matter, if you can just sit there and talk about it for, 3 hours. At that time, we were doing like 7-hour live streams.
Wow.
So like if you can sit there and you can just, hour after hour after hour, just random questions are being thrown at you and you're just nailing them all. It just shows your knowledge of the subject matter. And I think that really helped me as well in terms of just, the authority of, me just being knowledgeable in the space. And I think that also helped me in terms of when prominent people would come into the stream, like Mike Stelzner, for example, at Social Media Marketing World, like he gets to see right there, in real time, like, okay, hey, Nick knows his stuff. So then that opens up additional opportunities for speaking and, things like that, which then lead to, additional opportunities and so on. So I think that the live streaming side of what it is that I do is a really big part of it. And I love it. Like for me, like my Saturdays, I know a lot of people would be like, why is he doing it on Saturday? He's like eats up his weekend or whatever. But, the way that I've, kind of designed my life, so to speak, like, I can take off whenever I want. So like a Saturday to me is just like a Monday or a Tuesday, like it doesn't matter.
Any other day.
So so because of that, like the Saturdays for me is something that I really look forward to. Because, I get to come in here and I get to, help people directly. Like when I publish a video, I know people are going to watch it. I know people are going to enjoy it. I know some people are going to get value out of it, but it's like at scale and I don't have any like real target in terms of like, hey, this is definitely going to help that person that left that particular comment. Like I can't see that unless they give me that feedback. But when it comes to my live streams, I get to help somebody like their specific question that they have, this hurdle that they're trying to jump over. I get to, answer their question and hopefully help them, get over that hurdle. So I get to add that direct value. And for me, I pull a lot of energy from that because, when you're sitting there and you're like, okay, we got through, 30 something questions in the forum. We pulled, 20 questions out of the chat. That's like, 50 or more people that got, direct help with a problem that they were having with their YouTube channels or something they were trying to understand or whatever the question was about. And I just pull a lot of energy from knowing that value is received, so to speak.
Yeah, that's actually I was going to ask you that question of like, as your subscriber and your audience has grown to like this like massive like size, like how do you even like continue that engagement? Like, like comments, but I guess like live streaming is a big part of that, right? Like, you're answering direct questions all the time. They're feeling seen and heard. Is there any other things that you guys that you've implemented to continue that connection and engagement with your audience?
Absolutely. So I read all the comments, but I have help in replying to the comments.
There you go.
So one thing that I try to do is on my YouTube channel, I try to make sure that every comment gets either a heart or a direct response. And the reason for that is because, and this is going to sound a little bit weird, but time is the most valuable thing that we have.
Yep.
And the people that are interacting in the comment section, if they take their time, even if it's just a few seconds while they're watching the video or maybe after the video or whatever, like if they take their time, even if it's a few seconds to leave a comment there, then, they've just kind of, inserted some of their time into what it is that I'm doing. So, because of that, I think that it's just the right thing to do to just let them know that at the very least that their comment has been read. And, the ones that get hearts, then that at least lets them know that, their comment has been read so that they know that they're heard and that their comment isn't lost, so to speak, in the sea of comments. It's funny, we actually get a lot of response from that to where people will be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you answered the comments. Nobody ever answers my comments on YouTube. Or hey, a channel your size, I never get comments replied to from a channel your size, like things like that. So it's definitely something that people notice. And so because of that, I'll keep doing it as long as I possibly can in terms of just making sure that all the comments get answered. And that inspiration actually came from Evan Carmichael. So I was at Video Marketing World in Dallas, Texas, and I was watching Evan on stage, and he was talking about the importance of the community and engaging and all that, and he had mentioned. And I had saw it in his comments, because I watch his content. But in his case, I see that, they'll answer the comment, but then they'll put like a little tag in there so that he can know who it is that answered the comment. But basically, one of the things that he was talking about is why he did that. And I was like, wow, that makes so much sense. Like, like if you just think about it for 1 second, it's like, these people are giving to you essentially through that engagement. So, and of course you did it first. You seeded the whole thing by publishing the video. But the people that are interacting with that video, they're giving to you through that comment, and that helps you on YouTube. That helps you get seen by more people through the engagement that they're giving you. So the least you can do is to, to give them a heart or to give them a reply to the comment that they're putting out there.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, actually, Evan's going to be joining us next week on the podcast.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, that's awesome. That's really good.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you do have help with the comments. So like, how does that work? Like, just like real quick, like, do you have like specific questions that they answer? Is there any questions that only you answer? If it's really specific, like, how do you sort of manage that? It's a great idea.
Yeah. So when it comes to the questions, the person that I have helping me with the comments is extremely knowledgeable about YouTube. So they have full reign, like they're just complete trust. He can give any advice. He can do like anything, like whatever he thinks is best, then he can give them that information. In terms of, other people doing it, that's not something that I would hire a VA for with my type of content, because, you like in my case, like the person has to be knowledgeable, because, people are asking questions, and they're going to be some people are going to be making decisions on their YouTube channels, which therefore can impact them, their families, all of that stuff. So because of that, I look at it like there's, some responsibility behind it. So because of that, I made sure that the person that's helping me with that is just really knowledgeable about YouTube. So there are some things, from time to time to where, I'll get a message on Discord, asking me to reply to a specific comment. If it's something really technical or something like that, or if they have, something that's directly, at me for something in my personal life or something like that, then maybe I'll go in and answer them. But outside of that, when the video first gets published, then I'll answer those for the first like hour, sometimes 2 hours right after the video is published. Like that's all me. But then after that falls off, then in that case, like I'll, like I wake up while I'm having coffee, like I'm in there, I'll heart some comments, I'll answer some comments, and then he pops in there from time to time throughout the day, and then he'll do the same exact thing. So, kind of around the clock, one of us is, in the comment section, answering comments and giving hearts.
I like it. So if you guys are listening, then make sure you're commenting like within the first hour of the new video from Nick, and it's going to be directly him. But you'll be behind all the comments anyway. So that's awesome. Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah, I read them all. So I read everything because, again, like when it comes to this stuff, like a lot of people, and I've actually had this direct feedback to where people are like, it's just YouTube, like whatever. But because all of this, because YouTube specifically, because this whole thing has changed literally everything about my life. Because of that, like I look at it like, man, like I have to make sure that I'm giving people the right information. I have to make sure I'm giving people the current information. I have to make sure that, that I'm, sharing the right things with people. Because, if I do that and then they take the information, like that one comment could send them in the direction to where, they could, start doing well on YouTube, and then they could, have a similar experience or even a better experience than I've had through all this. So
yeah, no, totally. Like you said, I think you do have a lot of responsibility. I think what you say, a lot of people will take and do, right? And so that's not something that happens overnight. I think like what we're talking about here with building an online audience is like you've built a really solid reputation. Like I haven't heard anybody speak, ill about like the advice you've given. And I think a lot of people respect that you've done it already and you're not sharing anything that you haven't tested or done, right? So I think there's a lot to be said about the trust that you build as a content creator, and I think you've done that really well. So
thank you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I want to ask a couple comments. I shared on Twitter that I'm going to be talking to you today, so I've got a few questions from some people here on Twitter. I'm just going to rapid fire this over to you. All right. So Daniel Kosmala, one of my colleagues here, face of our YouTube channel here at Uscreen, he says, how do you decide which opportunities are the right ones for you? That's a great question, because I'm assuming you get people reaching out to you every single day. How do you say no to?
That is a good question.
Yes,
first,
no?
I just want to say Daniel's awesome. So he's just killing it over there at Uscreen. So in terms of me deciding the opportunities that are right for me, basically I have very specific goals that I'm trying to accomplish with the channel in terms of the community, in terms of, how I serve, the people that are interacting with the content, and then also, what I'm trying to accomplish as well. So it's a really easy filter. Is this opportunity going to help me either serve them better or help me get to what it is that I'm trying to do faster? If the answer is yes, then we're a go. If the answer is no, then in that case then it would be a no go. Now there are some complications. Rob and I talked a little bit briefly before the show today. There are complications with that as well. Just making sure that like if there are other people that you're working with, making sure that, if an opportunity comes in, that you're not stepping on the toes of the people that you're already working with and things like that, out of respect for them and their products and all of that. So there is that side of things. But, outside of that, it's just, is this going to, help the community? Yes or no? Is this going to help me? Yes or no? And then that will be the decision.
Great. Awesome. Question from Demi Hard. How do you keep yourself and your family safe online as well as in real life from, stalkers and people in general who want to get close to you?
It's a really good question because safety on the internet is really important. Yeah. So basically, the very first thing that I do is my actual emails themselves. I have a system that I put together to where I have a public-facing email, and then based on the emails that will come into that, they'll get moved into different email addresses based on what they're coming in for. So basically, that public-facing email makes it to where that email, if somebody were to get a hold of it, they wouldn't be able to do anything with it. So there's that side. In addition to that, when it comes to the videos that I make, even though I might show some things like in the area, they'll typically be like if I end up making content outside, for example, which I don't do that often, but when I do, I won't show anything that's, right in front of my place or right by my place or anything like that. And if I do show something that's close to my place, it would be something that would still be really hard to track down. So for example, where I live, we have like rice fields all around us, but Thailand has rice fields everywhere. Yeah. So because of that, I can go out there and I can share, a YouTube story, showing the rice fields and say something about that. But that's okay because, there's rice fields everywhere here. So it's not a big deal. And in addition to that, I also do other things as well. Like for example, any domain name that I own, I make sure that I use whois protection there. So then that way, I don't have like an address, to where people can just show up, for example. And I am also, I know some people list their address so that people can send them stuff that they'll list that in their descriptions. Some people do it through a PO box. But me, I don't even do that. I'm just like, what, if you want to send me something, you can send me an email and then we'll figure it out from there. But I'm not, I don't publicly list, any of those types of things. So, when it comes to that sort of thing, your privacy is really, it's really important, and it's important to me. Just for the sake of, making sure that, that I don't have anything weird happen. Because I'm over here, the likelihood of that, is pretty slim. But, if I was in the States, I would actually probably be even more diligent when it comes to making sure that I was, kind of crossing all my T's, so to speak, when it comes to my privacy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Great answer. All right. Next two questions here from Twitter, Shannon Vlogs and Miriam Carol Havard. Sort of a similar question, I think. I would say probably check out your streams and your channel for sure. Shannon wants to know all about your setup, the software you use, the cameras, the lights, and Miriam wants to know about everything. And so I'm assuming head over to Nick's channel. There's a new video every single week. There's a live stream where you can interact with him and Dee every single week. But anything you want to add to that, to those questions?
Yeah, so really quick, cameras. Basically, I have the Sony A6500s. That's what I use for pretty much everything. I have the Sigma 16mm lens on that. That's the same camera that I'm using here. Same camera that I have, up here in the corner. I've got another one of these back here. But the lens that's on the back one is a little bit different. And then for my setup that's in the back here for tutorials, things like that, I have a Sony A5100 with this Sigma 16mm lens on it. But the Sony cameras are my favorite, but I do have a Canon 90D and a Canon 80D as well, but they just don't get used as much with the exception of a live stream. Mm-hmm. For the audio, Rodecaster Pro with the Shure SM7B. And then for live streaming hardware, I use the A10 Mini Pro to do all my camera switching. Yep. Because it has built-in software that will automatically do it. So I can be completely hands-off during a stream. And then for software, of course, I use StreamYard to do my live streams every single Saturday. I use Camtasia for my screen recordings. I'll use Camtasia to edit my videos if it is a screen recording video to where I just put in like an intro and an outro to it. If it's a full video to where, I'm not doing any type of screen recording, then I'll typically use Adobe Premiere for that, which is kind of a new thing. I used to use Vegas Pro, but just because I was really fast in it. But I've, spent some time learning, an hour here, an hour there to be pretty efficient now in Premiere Pro as well. So because of that, I just don't open Vegas anymore. Let's see here. TubeBuddy, let's give a shout out to TubeBuddy while we're here, Rob, right? Yeah. So I use TubeBuddy, of course, to help me, manage my channel, come up with good video ideas and all that. Let's see here. What else? Off the top of my head. In terms of the software that I use and the hardware that I use to make my content, I would say that's it. For hardware, I guess, as well, for the recording the videos, I use a NTG6 by Rode. As my microphone as well, and I run that through a Zoom H5 so that I can get just a nice clean signal out of that too. So yeah,
Nice.
I think that's it for the hardware.
Nice. What's a piece of gear that you want to buy? Like, what's sitting in your Amazon shopping cart right now? Like, what's the next thing you want to buy? Wish list.
If I run across a Pro Extreme, I'll probably get one. An A10 Mini Pro Extreme. Outside of that, like if I see gear that I'm like, yeah, this will add value to what I'm doing, then I'll just get it. But right now I'm kind of like on a music buying frenzy. So like I just recently got some bongas, and I got like a I'm not sure how you say it. It's like djembe or something like that, but it's like an African drum that kind of adds some low into it. Picked up a guitar, that kind of stuff. But in terms of the video stuff, I've got most of that taken care of.
Nice.
But now it's just more just music tools, so to speak, music tools and instruments.
Nice. Great. There you go. All right. Last one from Twitter here. Grabster, at Grabster TV. Time management. How do you do it? How do you do all the things?
My man, Grabster. So when it comes to time management, I prioritize my life first, and then work later. So basically, my workday will typically start around like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, sometimes 6. And then I'll try to have everything wrapped up, usually around like midnight or so. Like right now it's like 1:30 a.m. Where I am. So if my energy seems a little bit low, that's why.
No, it's not.
But typically I will, I'll typically wrap things up here around midnight. And that gives me, enough time to do, what it is that I need to do. And, another thing that's really helpful when it comes to time management is it's really easy to get lost in terms of time on the internet, because, you want to interact in your Twitter messages. You want to see what's, if anybody's, adding you anywhere. You have people hitting you up on Facebook Messenger all the time and all of that. So because of that, I'm also very strict when it comes to my engagement on social media in general. So like I'll check my messenger maybe, 2 or 3 times per day. I'll check my email typically, once or twice per day. When it comes to Twitter, I'll interact on Twitter a little bit more, but when it comes to my DMs, I'll typically check my Twitter DMs maybe once a week, unless somebody, hits me up and says like, hey, check your DMs, then I'll go in there. But I just try to make sure that when I am in here and it's work time, that I'm working, because it's super easy to stack up a lot of time to where you're not being productive. And if you're, just spending that time, chatting and doing a bunch of things that aren't really helping move the needle forward, then in that case, you're not really working, you're just hanging out, and you should be doing that in hangout time, in my opinion. So when it comes to time management, I just try to make sure that, when I am in front of the computer or in front of the camera, that I am, that I'm focusing that time on getting things done.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, Nick, this has been awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time. It's great catching up with you. Always learning from you. What's the best way for people to connect with you and learn from you even more?
You can go to nicknimmin.com, and that, it's my website, that you'll be able to find everything there. Or you can just go to nickscontent.com, and that will just send you to like a link tree of sorts to where you'll be able to find, like my YouTube channel and things like that.
Beautiful. All right, Nick, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rob. And have an awesome rest of your day over there. And thank you so much for having me on the show, man. I really appreciate it. And hopefully, fingers crossed, people got some value out of our conversation today.
I'm sure they did. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that episode and that conversation with Nick Nimmin. Make sure you're subscribed to the show so you don't miss any new episodes as they're published. And if you want to learn more about using Uscreen for your business, or if you want to join our affiliate partner program, head over to uscreen.link/podcast to get more information, and I'll see you in the next episode.